In a number of spiritual paths, your deeper questions might find answers in a session in the pastor's study. You're looking for something more, so let's offer you something different. Merry meet. Blessed be. Welcome to yet another session in a very different pastor's study. I'm Aiden Odinson, High Priest of the Temple of Gaia, a priest of the Universal Gnostic Fellowship, etc. And yes, I'm wearing my white robe again, not my black robe. It's well into the 90s here. The basement cathedral is not air-conditioned. So, a few considerations for comfort. And I'm trying to do about 3 things at once. It helps if this is easier and quicker to get in and out of, etc., etc. And this is awfully comfortable this time of year. I bring that up because a few people have made comments about, ooh, what's Aiden doing? You'll see. One of the things I'm trying to do is to bring us into the mainstream, where we are, if we want to admit it, and where we need to be to really accomplish something. I'm going to offer you 3 key tactics that each and every one of you can be involved in. Each and one of you can do your part in. That'll result in some great things for us. Number 1, and I think most of you are already there. Some are not. And for some it's more difficult than others. And that's just simply come out of the broom closet. I realize in some places we have at least one viewer in Somalia, a few other places where what I have to say is actually illegal. So, it's a little bit more difficult there. But in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, there's no reason not to. As a matter of fact, there's very good reason to do. And I'll give you the reason why I decided to not be in the broom closet as part of the decisions I made when I embraced Wicca. And that's the nature of gossip. And I've had to deal with that most of my life. People saying various things about me, whether or not they were true. One of the things about gossip is, if you're not upfront with the gossips, they'll invent something. If you're not upfront with the gossips, they'll invent something. And so, you don't go to their church. What are you doing? And you give them the implication, somebody sees you at a get-together, some sort of a festival or something like that, or sees a picture of you in something. or see somebody that looks like you at some sort of a gathering, and oh, look at who I see there. And you give the implication that you've got something to hide, that there's something that needs to be hidden, if you're not up front. And that's true about just about anything that you can say about yourself, including the very basic fact that for many years I was a Wiccan and also a Republican. Now that changed in 2000 when George W. Bush became the candidate. But up until then, I was a very staunch Republican. Until, as Ronald Reagan said in 1964 about the Democrats, I said about the Republicans, I didn't leave them, they left me. But anybody who knew Iden at Covenstead Grove back in the 90s knew that Iden was a Republican. And so that revelation was so what? And besides, I can tell you that Llewellyn and a few others are not going broke serving our needs in publishing books, marketing magical tools, that sort of thing. There are people who make a fairly decent living off of serving our needs, which tells me that if we all came out of the broom closet and said, yes, we are, and here we are, now just deal with it, folks, you know what? We would be mainstream. Now, oh, what's this? Nah, my idiot card's over there. I didn't have time to get a broad enough brush. Anyway, number 2, break down your own barriers. For one thing, barriers can imply hypocrisy. An example would be a certain lady, I won't say I know her, but I met her and dealt with her once. I had to. And she said outright, she hates Christians. Well, excuse me, but we're not supposed to hate anybody. We might have to hate what some of them do, but you don't give a big group a broad brush. So for some of us, it might be worthwhile to take a look and see what these other groups, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Muslims, what they're doing and what they're about, so among other things we can dialogue with them and possibly see if they've got anything worth offering, worth looking into. Look, like, do we have something like that, or did we? And then there's also, are there any of them that have a need for something that some of us might be able to supply? And this comes to the third one, dare to cross over. Dare to cross the line and watch the line disappear. I've talked about bridges before. A bridge is solidly anchored on both sides. And it crosses over a gap that you wouldn't be able to cross any other way except with great difficulty. And the flexibility joints are in between. The ends are firmly anchored in the ground on both sides. You've heard me say that. But is there something that some of them may need that we might be able to help with? First thing that would come to mind to a lot of you, I'm not one of them, but there are a lot of us who know a lot about natural remedies and herbs and the things that they can do for us. My knowledge is limited to a few kinds of tea that I make good use of when I need to. Chamomile, if I'm feeling tense, for instance. But there's quite a few of you that know an awful lot more about that. And natural remedies that can be in addition to what the doctor down the street is going to charge Blue Cross for. There's one thing. There's something else I've got in mind that I'm going to be looking at that I'm not going to express in too much detail here because there aren't a lot of us who are in a position to do so, but I am, and I will. I'm going to. I'm just trying to figure out a way to do it, and I think I'm pretty close to that. But then, what else? Lore. You take a look at what goes on, for instance, in a Roman Catholic high mass. Before anything else, the priest goes up to the altar and does something that my first impression was, what's he? I thought the altar was consecrated. Is he reconsecrating it? Well, no, not really, but it kind of made me think of later on, that's what casting the circle was about. Etc. And in the various stories, Bran the Blessed, Saint Brendan, Breed, Saint Brigid, and some others. I remember a story of someone who hung from something made of wood and had his side pierced with a spear. Of course, he hung there for 9 days, not just an afternoon. That was Odin. And he lost his son to treachery. And his son will come back after a final battle. Not Armageddon, but Ragnarok. And you know what? They're both, while Ragnarok is going to be fought in a valley, it's hard to say whether Armageddon is actually going to be fought in a valley, or, since they're talking about gathering together all the armies in that valley, is that just going to be the staging area? But it's a fact. Armageddon actually comes from Har Megiddo, the valley of Megiddo, and you had to pass through there if you were going to mess with the Holy Land, the land of Israel. We got a lot to share with each other. There's a lot we can do for each other, including and especially in some cases helping them reclaim their lore. They used to know about herbs. They used to know about astrology. We can do these things. Come out of the broom closet, break down the barriers. See about crossing some lines. See if those lines disappear. And with that, I can have something bigger to worry about. You know what that is? Let's not allow ourselves to become like the people that we've criticized. Let us not fall into their traps, the ones that they are in. I'm Iden. Blessed be. Uriel's Gifts and the Secrets in Plain Sight are sponsored by the Temple of Gaia. At Temple of Gaia, we don't train you to our path. We show you how to find and pursue your own path. Above all, we tried to provide a great place to come together and to share. We're located in Collingdale, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, and wherever cyberspace can be reached. To learn more, visit our website at templeofgaiainc.org or our meeting place in cyberspace at templeofgaia.ning.com. Thank you for coming. Feel free to return at any time. We intend to always have something for you here. Blessed be. This has been a presentation of the Wise Ones Net. Merry part and blessed be.